And so, again, that's the difference between what the assessment we would have done was, and from a public process, what was actually used for management. So they're answering different questions, but I think both of those there's benefit to doing. I think this is more presentational, but I think given all the discussion, presentation is very important, that we get as much information out on what is a complicated process. To help people see what's actually changed and what, to some extent, why has it changed. And I mean, the other thing that you can't see here is that the fecundity change it's not trivial in this version of the model. So the difference between depletion definitely goes down when you move to the fecundity rather than weight, which again is what we would expect, and it is consistent with our best practices, but it's again something that does need to be communicated.
Anybody else? Okay. We have seen these tables already, but I just wanted to put these back in. So again, the comparisons are from this model to August, but we have 3% higher yield, 13% higher 2027 ACL, and this was due to some of these revised estimates of recent recruitment, that recruitment was still low, but not as low, which we just saw in kind of this plot here. Anything that we want to discuss about the specific reference points, or which are on the left, and then the projections on the right? Trying so hard for the 8 seconds. 8 seconds of silence.
I have a question. Can you go back to the previous plot? So this is showing that all of the changes which have been added in the October model are giving a lower biomass and a lower stock status. But the table suggests that the OFLs are going up. Can somebody put those two together for me? Because I don't really understand why that is.
This is an Andre answer, and he tried to answer it on Tuesday.
Yeah, no, so essentially this is the FMSY proxy is F40. So essentially by increasing M, you've increased F40. So the problem is that table doesn't have we don't have the old, and we need to look at the old and new F40s, but I don't. Oh, wait a moment. Wait. The number we would be comparing, although it isn't here, is exploitation rate resulting in SO40, which is 8.7% best estimate. I don't have the equivalent number, maybe someone else does, but I think there's two things going on. One, of course, is the higher M means that exploitation rate will go up. And then the fecundity will bring it back down a little bit, simply because fecundity, obviously, it's more impacted by fishing mortality. But I think that's so that there's essentially, in one sense, there is less fish, but they're more productive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's kind of the only thing that does make sense. I guess this is partly aided by the fact that there are more older fish as well who are also more productive.
Not compared to the August meeting, I don't think. I don't think we know that. It may well be true, but I don't. I'm trying. Would we compare to August?
Wasn't one of the changes size dependent fecundity?
Yeah, but that will increase the value of old fish, not necessarily. Usually, when you change fecundity, it makes no difference to the N matrix. It's all in N times, because the fecundity only appears in the model in the stock-root relationship, which is, essentially the rec devs deal with that. So when you just change the fecundity relationship, usually spawning biomass and all that stuff doesn't change very much. But when you translate it into depletion or SPR, it does. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, my brain's not up to that this time of the day.
You need to do my assignment 4 for my class, where I actually I have to remind myself what's going on, but it does help.
Whitney, can you speak to your comment in the chat? It looks like you found the answer.
Sure. Yeah, I just heard Andre mention that what I think I heard was that you would want to compare this to the exploitation rate at SB 40%. Maybe you meant SO 40%, but I don't see an SO 40%.
It would have been SB 40% because SO is spawning output. But you're faster than me. I in the assessment I can't find the stupid table.
Right. So I did find table 15 lists it as 0.086.
Okay, so it's really not hugely different. And you're right, it's 0.086 was very slightly changed range. Is that right? Exploitation rate corresponding to SPR 50. Wait, I want SPR 50. I'm looking at the wrong thing. 0.75, 0.7. So it hasn't increased by very much, to be honest. Although it's.
Well, is it 3%?
Wait, this doesn't make sense. 69? Oh, no, that's right. Sorry, I couldn't read. So it hasn't actually changed a huge amount, but that's what M should. What's the M that we ended up with? I get lost with all that. Did M end up back to where we were? What was M in the end? What was the M in the update?
Yeah, can somebody pull that?
The 2019 update.
2020. So it was 122 in the update assessment, which we knew because it was in table 1. So M has increased.
When you say update assessment, that's not helpful, Andre. Which one are you talking about?
Oh, sorry, the August model.
August, thank you.
So interestingly enough, the August model had an M of 122, and this one has an M of 156. So you would expect that the exploitation rate corresponding to F50 would actually go up. But it's really not very different. That's surprising.
So that was the point I was making badly looking back at that plot, Andre, where M has changed quite a lot.
Yeah.
Between August and October.
Yeah, so I would have expected SPR F at SPR to go up, which is not in this table. Wait,
they're
why is it not?
like to go.
You got the exploitation rate. Well, that's good enough. But where's the exploitation rate for F50? Oh, there it is, 0.076, and here it is 0.07675. So it's a little high, but not as much as I would have expected given that change. I'm struggling a little bit. Because, yeah, it should have increased. And I don't think a 1%, 2% change in exploitation rate is going to change this. What else has changed? You're above B40, so there's no 40-10 adjustment.
So it sounds like regardless, we need better documentation of this estimate and possibly
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, because it's increased by 10% between the original model and the revised model. And depletion is lower, but M is higher. So, oh, maybe it's just straightforward growth. Jeff, what do you think? I mean, with a higher M, you've got a higher growing population, but I would have thought you would have seen that in SPR 50. That could do with more explanation, because it's not very intuitive.
No, I mean, that is the assumption, is if you increase M, you're effectively saying the stock is more productive, so you can take more out of it.
Yeah, but you should have then seen that in the SPR calculation.
You should.
LB, would you mind taking on these? I mean, I'm calling them editorial revisions, but our notes along those lines, which would include any time we say that there's a need for more explanation.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thanks. Because we just didn't have that category before.
So making sure that I'm getting this one, I guess we're a little lost as to why, because what we know is that the M estimates have gone back up compared to the August 2025 assessment. But what we're saying is that that's not showing up in the SPR calculations the way that we would expect it to. So basically, all we need is more documentation.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's how does the change in the assessment results feed into the change in the productivity and hence the OFL.
Change in the OFL.
And
Yeah.
so does this have to do with the shift from the units of spawning biomass rather than like, because they shift to millions of eggs with the...
No, because it's not the difference between change in data weight and add fecundity relationship. You can see that table. You got it. Can you go back to the table 1?
Yes.
Oh, where did it go?
Table 1 in the, sorry, which?
Table 1 in the update new model.
Okay, not the request, but the...
Yeah, just to take you through a few things.
All right. This one?
Yeah. So if you look at the second last and the third last columns, okay, so that's just the difference. The only difference there is you're changing the units. And the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of that table are essentially the biology.
Right.
And they don't change very much at all. Right? So so unfished biomass, unfished recruitment, those are in fish and biomass, and so they don't change. But what changes is go down to fraction unfished.
Sorry,
And you'll see that just by changing the units, you go from 54 to 51%. And that has an effect on the OFL. And that's where the complication comes in. So I mean, if you think about where I'm trying to go, and I thought I was there, but I wasn't. So if you think about it, from the point of view of biomass, the biomass is essentially the same in those 2 runs. Okay? Which is what we would expect, because fecundity only affects the stock-root relationship.
Yeah.
Depletion is different, but you'll notice the change in OFL is pretty dramatic. So essentially, you've got the same biomass, and the same M, which means you've got the same productivity, but the effect is in how fecundity affects something. And my only guess, now that I was shown wrong, is that this is a population that's in decline, and maybe it goes down a little faster. I mean, if you look at table, where's that table? The end table, the projections table.
That I just had up in the PowerPoint.
Yeah. You get
just-
in 2027, you get down to 42% of B0. So maybe that's what's going on, is that the population is coming down relatively quickly. And remember, it'll go down faster because of spawning output rather than spawning biomass. So we don't have spawning biomass here, which would suggest a slower decline, I would guess. In fact, I know that's true. But that's all I can guess. But I think it's those two, it's the difference between those two columns that's driving this result.
Okay, Andre, perhaps you can help Albie with that part of this.
Yeah. Send me some draft text and remind me what meeting I was in, Albie.
Okay, Albie, and you got a hand up?
I think Jeff was first, Jeff Tingley.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Abby. Can you go back to that table 1 that we were looking at previously, Cheryl, please?
Yes, I can.
So Andre was pointing us to columns, the second and third from the right, where we are changing, where we are basically adding the fecundity relationship. Now, I said earlier that I thought this was quite a big change, and that's what's shown in this table. So if you look at the 4th line up, the change in fishing intensity goes up from 1.1 to almost 1.2, and that leads to quite a big drop in catch advice. So I think this is a big change, and I want to be sure that this is a sensible change to include in the whatever model, assuming we accept from whatever model we accept. This for me is something. So I've seen this discussed for other rockfish stocks. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it might have been chili pepper, and it wasn't included in the base model, but it was discussed in detail. And I think it didn't actually make that much difference. But here it's making quite a big difference in outcome. And I think we need to be sure that this is an appropriate thing to do, given that this is being driven by a relatively small amount of data coming from one data source, which is the age data of the survey, I think.
Not quite, Jeff. I wish I had it here, but I guess what I was trying to say, obviously not well, the output of the assessment, the actual N matrix, is almost identical between these two runs. What changes is how you turn the N matrix into the unit of conservation, either spawning biomass or in terms of spawning output. So the actual N matrix is unchanged, but it's because you're multiplying by a different, you can think of it as a different like weighted age. And so you end up with a different depletion because big fish are being valued more in spawning output than in spawning biomass. The 1.187 is a little bit misleading because the units are different between those two things. Fishing intensity is related to SPR, and SPR is related to fecundity. So you really can't compare, which is why I was trying to avoid comparing like B0, B2025, 2025, because they're in different units. But unfortunately, fishing intensity is not like F, it's SPR related. So
I understand that, Andre, but I'm trying to think about this from maybe Jeff Lackey's perspective. This isn't changing the stock or the biology, but it's changing the advice substantially.
Yep.
And I think we need to be able to explain why that is an appropriate thing to do.
Okay, so I'm going to say let's stop here, take a break. If folks want to ponder this a little bit more and think about how we may proceed, we can come right back to this in 15 minutes. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, that sounds great.
10:40, whatever, 40 for you, Jeff? 6:40?
Yeah, 6:40. It's actually getting light now, so I'm feeling a bit happier.
Great. All right, Marlene, do you have a slide for us to say we're on break until 10:40? Beautiful. Thank you so much. See you guys soon.
Hey, Andre, I don't think you're muted, just FYI.
Oh, am I swearing?
No, but just in case you were about to, I thought I'd save you.
Thanks. I am actually swearing because I've got my test is tomorrow, and the student just registered for a special exam, and I have to upload a file by within 24 hours. So it's like, let's just.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
That we can put in words in the section. It's something that I think would be of concern for the GMT, but just wanted to make sure that I'm understanding everything correctly, and that is an accurate takeaway.
Yeah, I think that's something we should make sure to put in the report. This can, I think, go Jason in recommendations for future research, but I think we're also going to have to identify a few items that, if it were possible for the stat to come up with responses to, that we would want to see, and other things would be for the next assessment, which hopefully would be a benchmark. I think that the lack of this sensitivity analysis is a result of this being supplemental on an update. And, you know, if it were a benchmark, they would have probably done that. So yeah,
I did do the sensitivity though. That was what I did.
You did, yes.
Yeah,
And
but I'm just unofficial here.
so we can make that note. We looked at the numbers and things like that. It would be great to have that come officially from the stat as well. Jeff Lackey?
Yeah, I would say the biggest deficiency is the biggest deficiency overall, and that is the model does not comport with the physical world. In order for the model to be correct, half of the fish on the coast would have to be traveling to two spots, primarily near the two major processors, to die and not hardly be replaced on the rest of the coast. And that's a pretty big theory that seems improbable. And for that reason, I think the assessment fails on the main charge, which is, if you look at terms of reference or the meeting objectives under the slides, talks about recommendations on the adequacy of the update assessment for use and management, or the meeting objectives ensure the assessment represents the BSIA and is reliable for drawing conclusions about stock status and appropriateness for use in fishery conservation and management. And so I would say that it's not adequate, nor is it reliable for drawing conclusions about the stock status. A lot of the conversations we're having are technical things that move the needle a little bit between the two models, the October and the August, but it still leaves the model relatively not that much changed. And so I think the biggest deficiency is this, and it may lead from the fact that this is an update assessment on a 10-year-old benchmark in which the fishery has drastically changed. And so that's the biggest deficiency, is the deficiency in what the charge is of the review and the approval at the SSC. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. I wonder with that, oh, go ahead, Whitney.
No, finish that thought. I just had something else I was hoping to comment or ask.
I think that's great, because I think we need to get to this conversation about BSIA. So I was going to shift us to unresolved problems before we go there. So it's all you.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. The only other thing, well, the GMT, we might comment, we also have similar concerns about the spatial extent of the midwater trawl fleet, like everyone else has been discussing. That does seem to pose problems. And the other thing that we've sort of talked about amongst ourselves that I can just say here is also that we we recognize the importance of having a better survey that is designed to encounter midwater stocks better, and that's absolutely something that should be looked at. But at the same time, balancing that with hopefully better ways to address the existing data sources that we do have, the bottom trawl survey and historical fishing, as well as current fishing. And given the time series that those data sources offer, I think just having that balance would be important.
And Whitney, are you drafting text along those lines?
I will. I have a separate notes file that I'm putting bullets down, and then I'll move that once I kind of get it more finalized. I'll move that over to the section soon.
Thank you so much. Are we okay to move on to unresolved problems and major uncertainties? So we can get to this discussion of BSIA and revisit anything again?
Yeah. What have you got so far?
Schaffler?
Okay. So we have that there's a disproportionate impact of the hook and line fleet, and that remains unclear why that occurs. The age compositions from the bottom trawl survey have an unusually large effect on natural mortality. Age compositions from the bottom trawl survey and the midwater trawl fleet considerably differ from one another. Since 2019, the bottom trawl survey sampled many more older fish in the midwater trawl fishery, and the reasons for this remain unknown. Perhaps do younger individuals behave differently than older individuals? Aging error is greater for older individuals and may have an unidentified effect on the age compositions for some fleets, which would be the bottom trawl survey. Natural mortality is a major uncertainty in this assessment. It decreased with each iteration, but increased. It decreased beginning with the 2015 benchmark. It decreased again in the 2019 update and the 2025 August update. However, the data weighting seemed to result in a higher natural mortality for the October model. All of the internally estimated natural mortalities are higher than would be inferred based on longevity. So there's a real there's major uncertainty with natural mortality in this assessment. Older fish identified in the bottom trawl survey may have an undue effect on natural mortality, and the panel has been unable to evaluate how results would change if M were fixed based on a prior, such as the Hamel and Cope prior. There's an unknown length fecundity relationship for this particular species based on the meta-analysis. And so widow rockfish was actually included in the Dick et al. Paper.
I was just looking at that.
So that is what is currently in the document. I do have a few others. Let's see, what do I have? There's still a concern about the tension between lengths and ages, particularly with respect to the bottom trawl survey and other sources of data. Future research, recommendation. Okay, that appears to be all that I have that would be that I have for this minute.
I mean, one that I think you've got implicitly, but I think would be worth putting out, and it relates to what I'm sure Jeff is going to write in his section, which is the sort of inability to currently reconcile what I call population level sampling with fishery sampling. So, for example, when we talked about the age data in the area of overlap, we were unable to resolve whether there is inconsistency in the area of overlap or not. So I think, and then there's obviously a difference in perception between what the CPUE sees and what the assessment does. And, that's an unresolved problem at this point.
Got it.
Oh, Jeff had his hand up, but it vanished.
I'm sorry, I was taking notes. Go ahead, Jeff.
That's fine. Note taking is important. So just for Jason, I think there is this issue about the kind of inadequacy of the fishery independent surveys to provide adequate information on abundance. I think that's also an unresolved problem. And I think we should flag that if we're going to make a recommendation about that, about doing some other things. Try and pick some better wording than I've just used there.
I have that in there.
Thank you. I mean, essentially, there's quite a strong link between unresolved problems and any deficiencies. So it's probably worthwhile that when we get further into writing this, we just do a double check across that. I mean, things like the assumption about stock structure is a single stock across the whole of the 3 states, and the boundaries happily coincide with the jurisdictional boundaries. That's a very big assumption. No one's really looked at that adequately or looked at the implications of what happens if that's wrong. So that kind of fits in there as well. But it depends how much we want to put in these different components.
One of the things I have for future research would be what Cheryl noted earlier. We're really uncertain about the scale of adult movement, which I think also sort of hits on the unknown stock structure. We're assuming that this is a coast-wide stock.
I agree, and I think that movement thing is directly related to some of the comments which Jeff Lackey's made about interpreting what's going on in the CPUE and how that relates to the what we understand from other sources of information. So I think that is important.
Yeah, I mean, I would say more information about individual movement and behavior, and also their distributions and how they may shift into space. Well, they are space. I'd say
it's by age. Do they the implication that you get these collections of younger fish is that the younger fish can move and do move, and the older fish move less, is one interpretation of it. Anyway, Albie's
right.
got his hand up.
Jeff was talking about with the resident fish, right, and the non. Albie?
Yeah, no, I mean, one thing was that about movement, and I guess that I'm not sure yet where things go when we write these reports. Something like the movement conversation, would that be an unresolved problem or a recommendation for future research? And along the same lines, it seems like we said that we're going to have a third section in this document that has some overlap with these two, which is editorial requests, right? So I'm thinking one of the things that I would have liked to see was teasing out the effect when they did the bridging for the new model, the effects of dropping the compositional data for the fixed gear fleets, which was one thing, so the simplification of the fleet structure. And then another thing was putting the estimating the discards externally and for the troll fisheries and putting them together with the catch instead of estimating retention curves. So so that conversation on the 7 changes that became 6, is that something that you envision it could be clarified from like with editorial changes to the final report, or is that
When we've done this in other ones, we've created an appendix, which is essentially changes that need to be made before the final model is presented to the SSC. So that's how we've done it. Just create an appendix and then refer to that appendix in the main text, so it's clear where in that section called summary of the assessment model, make it clear that, you know, for the final version, these are the things that we expect to be done.
okay?
Well, we could choose how we include that. If it's not a long list, then I would just have it in the body of the text in that section. There's a couple of bullet points.
Yeah, I guess maybe we've tried that before, and sometimes it gets missed. So making it fairly obvious is sometimes helpful.
Then you include it in the body of the text and have an annex.
Albie, along the lines of something you said earlier, I think there are many examples where something will appear in the unresolved problems and then the research recommendation. So it's like, what is the thing that we don't know? And then what is the thing that we could do to try to know it? So I think a lot of things will go in both, just phrased a little differently.
Okay.
Anything else missing from our list?
We haven't talked about alternative models.
No, I just mean in terms of unresolved problems and major uncertainty.
Oh, yeah. I know.
And then I think we can go back to the alternative models, sigma, and then end with future research.
That makes sense.
I also would like everybody
Do
go back in. Sorry, Chris had summarized some of our conclusions for the stat responses. And so at some point, I would like folks to take a look at that, but I don't know that we need to have, we already had that discussion, so we'll just need to make sure that that's accurately categorized or communicated. Go ahead, Andre.
Oh, I was almost going to jump onto alternative models, so I won't do that until you tell me to.
So I've got something else that we need to cover as well, and that's any recommendation for the next assessment, both type and timing.
We will get there. Both of you trust me. Do you not trust me
We
yet,
trust
Jeff?
you, Sharon. Of course I do, sweetheart. Of course I do.
A final call for unresolved problems and major uncertainties. Just want to make sure that it's captured here. Okay, Andre, you're up.
Yeah, so in the last assessment, the August model, the states of nature were M and steepness. Steepness obviously is pre-specified and it affects stock status, although we didn't see that here. That would normally be a sensitivity test. And I would probably add that to the to-do list, that we see the sensitivities to different values of M. But I would agree with what they did previously, that M certainly seems like a really good candidate for a state of nature. I think the steepness works well with that, and I recommend that we essentially suggest they do the same thing. But as has been noted by someone who read my text, that the low values for M and H will need to be for M will need to be updated. The H1s aren't going to be updated. They're going to be the same based on the quantiles from the current model. So I think steepness is really where the action is.
Well, I don't disagree with any of that. I think M is probably more important than steepness, to be honest, but simply because of the scale it has.
Yeah, although we haven't seen anything on H, so I wouldn't drop H at this point. I mean, if I'd seen runs that showed that it made no difference, I'd be comfortable about dropping the H side of things. But because we didn't, I feel more comfortable just being a little bit more, not evidence of absence is not absence of evidence, whatever that thing is.
Your favorite quote of the year. So
Brilliant.
you would like to
Brilliantly
see
expressed.
you would like to see a continuation of this
Yeah.
fold approach. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the axes of uncertainty, just for clarification for the group, would be natural mortality and steepness.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I think we're going to have to decide.
Oh, and then I added in some text at the bottom of the second paragraph without remembering we hadn't discussed it. And that is I anticipated to discuss today's discussion about spawning output and spawning biomass. And so normally we see biomass trajectories in only one unit. Assuming that we don't decide that we should throw fecundity out completely, I think the decision table should show both the trajectories of 4+ biomass and fecundity spawning output so that you can actually see the effect, which will obviously be highlighted in our report. So that's a little unusual, but I think given the long discussion about fecundity, I think it's appropriate. Either that was so profound or no one heard me. Or you're just ignoring me.
Trying to capture it right now. I'm putting
it's there already.
Where is it? It is?
It's at the second paragraph of the alternative model. So I wrote what I was going to say and then forgot to say it.
Got it.
So you're saying running the alternative models both with and without the updated fecundity relationship and presenting the outputs for both.
No. This would be if we agree to use the fecundity based assessment option. The output of stock synthesis includes 4+ spawning biomass, so you can get both of those simultaneously. Okay. So it wouldn't be 2 runs; it would be 1 run with two things coming from the output file.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is where I was curious. Do we actually need to explicitly request those bivariate plots, or?
Yeah, this is a decision table. So essentially, instead of having, normally we have columns for catch, for low spawning output, medium spawning output, high spawning output. There'll be a second table that shows the same model runs, but including 4+ biomass as well as spawning output. So you could see the trajectories of how depletion changes in those 2 units.
Mm-hmm.
So given how tricky we found this, I think we want to be requesting material that will help the SSC make a sound and informed decision. So I think we should be asking for this stuff.
Yeah, I think this helps in that regard. It doesn't help us to decide whether fecundity is in or out.
I guess in my view, it's in, but it needs to be updated to the species-specific relationship that's identified in DIC et al.
Yeah, because that is supposed to be what the default is, isn't it? Use the species-specific unless you don't have yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, there isn't a species-specific one for Widodo, is there?
Well, there's species-specific data.
Yeah, it was pointed out to me that in that meta-analysis, one of the line items is Entamelis. So there are parameter estimates there. I can give you the table 6, I think.
Yeah, there's a list of species in that paper. I can't remember whether this one's in there.
It is.
Okay. So yeah, then they should be using the posterior predictive distribution for widow.
If it exists, then yes, they should be using it because that's the best
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah, and I've already got that somewhere in here. I copied and pasted those parameter estimates too, towards the end of unresolved problems and major uncertainties. But that can be shifted.
Yeah, it's actually
Andre-
right here in table 5.
Andre, correct me if I'm
Thing.
wrong, that would result in a new proposed base model, correct?
Yeah, well, it wouldn't. The nice thing is it wouldn't change the fit to the data, so all of the diagnostics would be the same. But yes, they'd have to rerun the model with the new relationship. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong thing. But yeah, there's definitely yeah, the sample sizes for widow. I'm looking at table 5. I think I'm looking at the right stuff. But it's not the most data rich species, but it's certainly got, enough data points to fit a 2-parameter relationship.
Can you share what you're looking at for the rest of us, please?
Yeah,
Andre?
I'll do
I certainly can.
I got it, Andre.
You got it. You're ahead of me as usual.
I'm on table 6. I don't know what you were.
Oh, I was just looking at sample sizes.
Oh. Yeah, sorry. So here's
Table 5 or table 6.
Those are the parameter estimates or the medians for the parameter estimates plus their confidence intervals. And then this is the sample size. And Tamala.
Yeah, actually, I think if you go to figure 1, that's an even more useful thing because it's the power parameter that matters.
Okay, here.
Yeah.
And
So the
right here. Oh, well, there.
So the one you would normally use would be the black dot for widow, which is the 5th last one from the bottom, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And
can we
they
push
pro-
forward? Oh.
But yeah, there's definitely data, and it's amongst the more precise estimates. So
All right.
I wonder why they didn't use these numbers. It's really weird.
I feel like I need to double check.
Well, I'm just going to open up the file and check that they didn't actually do that.
Yeah, that would be great.
So the number I've got is 4.043, which doesn't really look like what's in that table.
Oh, they did say they used the predicted distributions for unobserved Sebastes, so they would need to shift to Entamelis.
Yeah. And that would actually make the effect larger. Because if I'm looking at your table 6, widow is 4.545.
I'll go back. Sorry, I'm making people busy. Table 6. Where is 6? There it is.
Yeah. So it's just above you can see the 4.043 there, and then just above it is 4.545. So that would have been the correct thing to use, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not unduly imprecise.
Okay. Anything else on alternative
So-
models? Go ahead, Jeff.
I have a question. This paper, can this paper
Yes.
be posted if it isn't already?
I will
Oh,
drop
put
it.
on the drive. Yeah.
I'll put it in the review materials.
Lovely, thank you. It's quite important. I haven't
is.
seen
Yeah.
this before. I knew it existed, but I hadn't seen it.
Okay, it's there
Well,
now.
you've seen results from it because this is where we take all
I
our
have.
numbers.
I have.
Okay. Are we good for this section?
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. So category and sigma. Andre, do we do this?
Yeah, so I'm proposing, I think I'm proposing, this is not my section, but I would suggest that for consistency with everything else, we would probably suggest category 1 with a sigma of 0.5. I don't think this is a category, I mean, there are certainly problems, but I don't think they're at the level of category 2.
Okay, let me just share that part of the tour for everyone's benefit.
Yep.
I think I have it up.
Appendix something or other, which we wrote when I had black hair virtually.
Okay, disregard all of my notes for our process review.
Oh, wow. That'd
Where
be so
is it?
exciting.
Ugh, which page is it? This one. Okay.
Yep.
Is it big enough?
Yep.
Okay. So category 1, A, B, and C, reliable composition data, sufficient to resolve year, class, strength, and growth characteristics. But this one is only fishery dependent trend information is available, age and size structure model. Okay. So same for B as in A for, I'm sorry, I'm here, category 1, data rich. Trend information is also available from surveys. And then C is that we have a reliable stock recruitment relationship.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Our 1B, and we don't really know how we're using the letters, or I still don't know, but it's still a 1. And then the default would be 0.5 for the sigma. Jason, did you end up getting the model-based estimate of sigma yesterday?
Albie provided that to me.
And it was, I'm guessing, less than 0.5.
Less than 0.5, yes.
Yes, and I'm looking for it. I didn't write it down, of course.
I should have it because I've got the model. So this is the 20, why would it be the 20, it wouldn't be the 2025 OFL, would it? It would be the 2027 OFL, wouldn't it? Because we know what 2025 and 2026 is. Marlene, is it should it be 2027?
No, I think it's
Why would it be a number in the past?
It would be the final year of the model. Hold on.
Really?
Yeah, this is what we used for Quillback.
That makes no sense because you're not, anyway, the 2027 is 0.35, but you're telling me you want 20,
Well,
sorry, 2025. Oh, this is OFL, not ABC.
Hold on. So let me just clarify something about the conversation right now. I'm trying to track where you are relative to the group's opinion on what model is being proposed that you would support going forward, right? And what your status is on that. Because what I heard was that you identified that you wanted a change made to the proposed base model to use this other species specific fecundity, and that would be like a revision, that would be like a revised. So is the group suggesting a revised base
Yes.
model that would go forward, but we have not you haven't seen the results of that model. So
That's correct.
So you're discussing, so you wouldn't necessarily want to report something about what the current model's estimate is, or that would come from the stat report or something. But if you're talking about your recommendation is going to be based on, your recommendation is for a model that hasn't been run yet. And so
Yeah, I think we could probably say with very high certainty that the sigma is going to be less than 0.5.
So, okay, I'm gonna jump in here. I think what we need to do is have the BSIA conversation. We kind of skipped that step. Also, in any of this, like with like category designation, sigma value, all of that, I think we need to refer to the proposed base model that is in front of us, because the reality is, let's say we say that this proposed model is BSIA, we may or may not get this follow-up work from the stat. We don't know what the council decision is going to be in terms of timing or the government shutdown or any of those things. So what we need to do is have the BSIA conversation about what's in front of us, and then we have this wish list item that would be great for the SSC to see, or the council, or what have you, but we can't base our recommendation on what may be in the future, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so with all of the things that we have identified, all of the merits, deficiencies, unresolved problems, what do we want to say about this proposed model in terms of whether or not it's BSIA? And so best available is basically, I think what is in front of us is to recommend this or default to the 2019 update or to the 2015 benchmark. Those, I think, are options, but someone can correct me.
Yeah.
And
Well, we
Cheryl,
can't really go back to 2019 because we know it's wrong.
Right.
right, but the
2015.
stat ran the 2019 model with the correction to it. So does that mean that technically that would potentially be an option?
I don't know that we reviewed all of the things that come with it, the diagnostics and everything else. Right. I guess I don't know if that's an option.
Yeah, no,
Well,
I mean,
I think-
they're also using things that we would have changed in the 20, if we had, yeah.
So I think the
So we wouldn't have- we-
SSC, the SSC obviously looked at that 2019 updated run and didn't like it enough to suggest that there needed to be a supplemental meeting and some more work done.
Mhm.
No,
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's sufficient reason for it not being an option.
yeah, I mean, my concern with the 2019 model is if we had corrected the error, what else would we have done that we didn't do? I mean, I feel we've looked at this one at least fairly well. I accept Jeff's concerns, although they would apply to the 2019 model as well. But I think we've done a better job of what we've got in front of us.
I don't have a concern about it, Andre. I think we just have to be clear that if we're going back and saying this is where we think the SSC should be looking, then that's fine. We just have to be clear about why.
Yeah, no, you're right. So I think in terms of the options, the updated base model is the best of the models that we have in front of us, but we recognize that we want it rerun with the correct fecundity relationship. Obviously, you want to see all the diagnostics, which, you know, the fits and all that, which we've looked at during the meeting, but we've, you know, there's more plots than we looked at. And I think it's a better reflection of the data that's available than anything we've got.
And you mean the October?
The one, yeah, the version that we've reviewed, but with the corrected fecundity relationship.
And so I guess I'll go back to what I said earlier, as I think that we probably can't make it conditional on that because we don't know if that can or will be updated.
Well, I mean, we could run that right now, actually. I could run the model, but I don't know what that starts getting into a process.
Yeah, no, I don't. We know one of the huge benefits is this back and forth, and you tweak one thing and you know that it changes something else. And like, I don't think we have the luxury of doing that right now. I think the decision in front of us, if we do think that the October model is the best reflection of the data and the modeling approaches that we have of our options, if we think that this is the one to go forward with, we should be comfortable recommending it as BSIA with the existing relationship, but requesting that if it were possible that relationship, the length fecundity relationship, be updated if the shutdown is listed and all these other things. Tingley?
So I'm slightly uncomfortable with that. And the reason I'm slightly uncomfortable with that is we don't know what updating that fecundity is going to do. So we would be recommending a model based on outcomes that we have, probably won't be too different, but we don't know. So I'm
Yes.
not really in favour of that. I think we have to choose one of the things that we've actually looked at.
Right. So that's what
I don't think updating the fecundity is an option for us.
Yeah, not for us. I think what we need to do is if we say October 2025 is BSIA, it is as is, we can make this request to update the fecundity relationship, and then it's the responsibility of the full SSC to decide which of those two.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
Happy with that.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Jeff's had his hand up for a while.
Oh yes, I'm sorry, I missed it. Where are you? Go ahead, Jeff. I can find you.
The 2019 model was mentioned. It may have some elements that are not up to current academic practices, but its overall result is closer to what's in the water, might even be too conservative. Just to put that out there. And it has projected ACLs through 2027 to 2030 that are well below the recent catches because it had a downward trajectory, for what it's worth.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. And sorry I didn't see you there.
So I'd like to put a conditional thought in as well. I think the difference in these models, these different models that we're looking at, from a biological perspective, there isn't much difference in them, but they do affect the catch limit, and so they will impact the future of the stocks differently. So I think I would like to be seeing whatever we choose quite strongly linked to the recommendation for both the type and the timing of the next assessment. Essentially, because we're being asked to choose between things that are going to affect the stock going forwards, and there's quite a lot of uncertainty about that. Depending on whether you use a biomass-based methodology or a spawning-based methodology, you get different outcomes. So I would like to see that there is a benchmark assessment and it's done relatively soon, so that if there is an error in whatever management is put in place this time round, it's not in place for a long time. It can be corrected.
Yeah, and that's consistent with the Groundfish Subcommittee and the SSC. Not only that the next should be a benchmark, but prioritized as much as is feasible in the next cycle. Andre, did you have something?
No, I agree with Jeff.
Okay. So, anything else on a BSIA designation? It sounds like the review panel is leaning towards the October 2025. I would like to hear from Albie and Chris. In that case, Jeff Lackey, I would recommend. I know you've already put together some text for your portion of this report, but we would also reflect any disagreement on that BSIA designation conversation.
Can you remind me? I'm sorry. Yep. You added something slightly new here, Cheryl.
I did. What did I add?
Which is the notion of the advisors disagreeing with the panel. That I don't think that's a thing in this section. When I've had this sort of situation, which has certainly happened before, where the advisor has a different opinion than the panel, it goes onto the advisor's statement. It's not a. It's a different form of disagreement. The disagreement, well, we can't have a disagreement with the stat because they're not there. We can disagree with ourselves, but I don't think the terms of reference were built around disagreeing with the advisors.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Well, we do have some language that Jeff Lackey plans to put in the management data and fishery issues section. There's a couple of those components. Oh, I actually see here. Thank you, Jeff, for putting that in the document. So Jeff's text is there. There are a couple pieces that I will reiterate elsewhere.
Yeah, no problem with the gap advisor section. It's just a question of making sure that the disagreement section is correctly reflecting within the panel or between the panel and the stat, because that's how we designed it.
Right, for BSIA specifically. Okay, thank you for that.
Right.
Okay, back to you, Chris.
Thanks, Cheryl. No, I was just going to endorse this approach where we can endorse the models in front of us. We can endorse the October 2025 update as BSIA, but then issue this request for updating the fecundity relationship. And should that become present, the SSC would then consider whether that model then constitutes BSIA should it come into existence and at that time.
Yeah, and Jason, in the recommended next assessment type section, could you make sure that that language is in there based on what Jeff Tingley said in terms of the impacts on the fishery? And there's a lot of uncertainty still, and everybody wishes that this was a benchmark from the start. But because of some of these impacts, we would really encourage that prioritization. And Jeff Tingley, can you say it better? Again, for Jason.
Well, I'll let Jason draft it, and then I'll edit. Okay. How would that be?
That's more efficient. Thank you.
That works for me.
Okay. Albie.
Cool. Works for me too.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything that has been said. I think that the October model, compared to previous versions of this assessment, it's not just a case of following best practices, but it's a case of fixing mistakes that have been identified compared to older versions of the model. One concern that I do have, and I guess it's the first time that I see this process shaking out, is when we think about the fecundity update and presenting that or requesting that to be presented, if possible, as an alternative model at the SSC meeting. I guess my worry there is, what if changing that has a substantial effect on model outputs or management advice, and would the full SSC have the bandwidth and the time to review those results to an appropriate extent at the full meeting? I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to get to the full SSC meeting with a model that has the updated fecundity relationship. When I say updated, I mean with the species specific values for Widow, right? That has again a significant effect on model outcomes, and people see that for the first time together with all the other things that need to be looked at that meeting.
Yeah, the SSC can and has done reviews like that. I remember, because I was to blame, an assessment that got through the STAR panel and that came to the SSC, and we actually ended up rejecting the assessment because the STAR panel had missed something. So as long as Marlene allocates enough time for this, which I think in this case should be more than the usual, although Jason is probably listening as well. So the SSC, ultimately, we are recommending something to the SSC. We are not making any decision. Well, we're making a decision, but it's not final. So I don't see that as a concern as long as people pay attention.
Jason?
Yep, I was going to say some of what Andre said, and what I would also add is a lot of this is dependent on things that are outside of the SSC's hands. It's whether or not the stat even has the ability to make these changes between now and what's essentially going to be like October 29th. So we're within 2 weeks or so of when they will have to have had this done to get it to the SSC for review. At the SSC, yeah, we can take time. I mean, it's a pretty full agenda, but
until you run out of presenters.
Yeah.
And as Marlene, I think you said that the council could even punt this to March if they felt that that's going to be right for the process. So we try to set up rules, but often we don't quite manage to follow them.
Tingley?
So coming back to the BSAI conversation, had this been a benchmark assessment, I would have expected to have seen a much bigger and more detailed exploration of this move to incorporate the fecundity relationship. Now, because of the way this has been done, we haven't seen that. And that makes me nervous, simply because, we're taking a lot on trust and we're assuming that, the data is good and we're following the best practice. So there's lots of reasons we could reasonably accept it, but we haven't seen all of what I would have liked to have seen the sensitivities around that by tweaking the parameters and seeing what changed and what didn't in the model. So for me, this is still quite a high risk recommendation, but I'm comfortable to make it. But I think, we need to reflect the fact that we haven't seen all of the diagnostics. We're taking quite a lot of this on trust. And that's, for me, is why I think we need to be really clear about not only the type of the next assessment, but the timing of it.
I think that those are really good points.
Marlene?
Yeah, I guess in thinking about November and how to sort of guide the process with what we have and what we potentially might have, again, like in looking at the material for this, we don't have an updated sort of full stock assessment document based on the October proposed model, right? And so we have like the response to requests and we have the report that they did, but we don't sort of have the full. I mean, you have the model files and things which ultimately go into creating tables and figures and things like that. But again, I don't know if this is related to Jeff's comment, but if there were going to be a decision, I mean, how does the group feel, or do you feel like the SSC also, if we don't sort of have, if we have the level of documentation and model package right now based on this model, is that sufficient, to support this decision?
I think what this panel is saying is yes. I think the SSC will have its own conversation, and then that'll be a council decision as to whether or not to move forward, right, without that complete document that the stat says they would produce after this review if they were back in office. But like, I think this review panel anyway is saying, based on what we see, this is the way forward.
But I think we should reflect in our report that we've been able to review everything that we've seen, and apart from not having we would like to have understood more what's going on, but there's nothing in the data analyses that looks obviously flawed. So it's a difficult one because we would have had a different panel if we'd had the statios, no doubt about it. I'm not sure we would have ended up in a different place, and I think that's where that's sort of my line right now. I don't see anything here that I go, really, I needed to know this to move forward. I certainly would have liked to have known more about the fecundity relationship, the spread of the lengths within the data set, that kind of stuff. But in terms of, do I see anything obviously wrong? The answer, I think, is, from what I can see, is no. Is that enough? We're going down an interesting path. This is the first time we've done this. Hopefully the last.
Okay. We have 15 minutes.
Yeah, then we've got a SETI meeting, by the way, Cheryl, according to my calendar. I think that might be cancelled.
It might be. Okay, so category and sigma, I think we are okay. It was cart before the horse, but category 1, default sigma of 0.5, which is greater than the model-based estimate.
Did we get a decision on which year?
Someone changed it to 2027, so I updated the number.
I did.
Okay.
I changed it to 27.
It does make more sense to be the year that you're actually setting the quota for, not the past.
And we're still happy that sigma is less than 0.5.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, fine.
So I can unhighlight this 350. That's what it is.
Yeah, I just updated it.
Okay.
And I will have reasons X, Y, and Z later.
Thank you. Okay. Oh yes. We've kind of stopped a couple different places for advisor comments after merits and deficiencies and things. But if you all want to weigh in again here, I just want to real quickly, it looks like what's in the report is accurate. No disagreements among the review panel. And then we couldn't disagree with the staff because they're not here. So that's the last of the items I wanted. Okay, panel, we're okay to then move on to advisor comments and then public comment?
Yep, fine with me.
Okay, and I think the recommendations for future research and things we'll do in the report. So, yeah, Jeff Lackey and or Whitney Roberts.
I don't have anything new or anything that's not in the comments I had. So in the interest of time, I won't reiterate.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. And thank you for putting together your thoughts. They're very well communicated for that section of the report. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks, Cheryl. Same for me. I raised my points earlier this morning, so I'm good now. Thanks.
Okay. Then Marlene, to you for public comment, if we have any.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure we had opportunity for public comment. We're a little late, but I realize some folks are still on the call. So if you'd like to make public comment, please go under the reaction tab and hit the raise hand button, and then we can call on you to provide public comment. Is there anyone who's on and listening that would like to provide public comment?
Yeah, my apologies for being an hour late. I try to keep to those time slots, but
No, there was a lot of material to go over today. I'm not seeing any raised hands at this point. So I'm thinking maybe the folks that are listening are not wanting to make comment at this time. Anyone else? You can just come off mute or raise your hand. I don't see any, Cheryl.
okay. Thank you. Let's see. Oops. I was just gonna go back to our timeline, but rapporteurs, do you have everything you need for your sections? I'm gonna throw that back up just to make sure everybody knows. Here. Oof. Okay. Anybody need clarification for any points in their section they're responsible for?
No, so I haven't gone through the text yet. Hopefully do that today. If there are any substantive agreements, sorry, if there are any substantive disagreements that we can't sort out through comments and online discussion, I'm happy to hop on a call with anybody that is required to address that over the weekend or next week, whatever, just to move it forwards, just to make that clear.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, anybody see any reason for possible disagreement as we get into the nitty-gritty of the text?
No, the only
I'm
time
not-
I've had
I'm not
this
seeing
is, I don't think so. In the terms of reference for what you do, because we've had in the past the infinite number of iterations problem, and there's Cheryl is God is written in the terms of reference. If it gets down to it, you decide.
Okay, I'm sure I will not do that in
That's
isolation.
great.
Yeah, Jeff, I had a panel that basically went on for months and months with people disagreeing about what actually happened, and that was not good. So we changed the terms of reference. So if you get into that mess, the chair basically rules.
Thanks, Andre. Okay, reminder about our timeline. So I understand it's very quick. I am constantly annoyed with a really quick turnaround, but this is where we are. So if folks could finish up their draft text in the next few days, the sooner the better. And I would say any of the review panel, Marlene, the advisors, if you want to make suggested edits or comments anytime, starting now, feel free, with the recognition that a lot of it is still just like brain dump draft form. And then my plan will be is if you all can kind of feel like you've gotten your sections into a good place by the 21st, I will go through, do the fine tooth comb, make revisions, probably tag people for additional clarification, and then send a more finalized version to you by the 24th, asking for comments in the next few days so that we can get a final report to Marlene by the 29th at the latest, so that the SSC, the full SSC, can have 2 weeks to review this. And then we'll see what happens with the stat coming back. As we're going through this report, we will need to identify things that are more important than others. I think we kind of did that in terms of like what might actually constitute a formal request to the stat if they're able to respond to anything. Right off the top, it just seems like it's really that fecundity relationship, and then other things are in the more would be nice category. But if anybody wants to flag other things they'd want to make as a formal request now, we can talk about that. Again, recognizing that you may not get a response. Okay. Marlene, is this all? Yeah. This is all what's on the slide.
Yeah, I just dropped it in the comments so that it was easy for everyone to see.
Great.
We still see the draft report on the screen. So that was what was proposed.
I was looking and I was like, oh, it says I'm sharing, but the wrong thing. Okay. Thanks, Marlene. Keeping me on it. This is what I was hoping you would see.
Uh-huh.
Okay. That was my earlier slide. Any last things we think we need to talk about or button up? Maybe I missed something.
No, just want to thank you for being so organized.
You're welcome.
Of course, the reward for organizational is more work, as you might have noticed.
So I'd like to thank Albie, particularly bringing some of the stat perspective to the discussion. I know he wasn't involved in all of it, but that's been really, really helpful. So thank you for making the effort for that.
Yeah. Thank you to the review panel. I know there were not very many of us, so there was a little bit more work for this, and it was on a relatively, and still is going to be on a relatively tight turnaround. So thank you for your efforts to do as thorough a job as is possible for this kind of a review without the stat. And then to our advisors, in particular, Jeff Lackey, thank you for sending us those questions in advance. I think it was really useful to all of us. And I would love to see that again in the future. So, yeah, that was very, very helpful. And I appreciate both of your engagement in this.
Is this where we go to the pub? Oh, no, wait a minute. We're all in different rooms. Damn, something went wrong there.
Yeah, so we'll continue to coordinate how the results of the supplemental review feed into the November council meeting and to the full SSC. Jason and I currently have a draft of the SSC agenda. I believe that a version of that draft is in your Google Drive. And then we'll consult with Cheryl about timing and sort of materials. And again, we'll just be flexible as we go, whether the federal partners come back and when relative to timing for the November meeting. So I'll just be sure to keep Jason and Cheryl informed on what I'm hearing internally on what people are thinking relative to planning for the November meeting. I do know that there's going to be a lot of interest in the material and in your recommendations, and a lot of discussion about where this will go from here. So again, I thank everybody, and thanks for participating in the process. I know we've sort of condensed it down and we weren't able to be in person, so appreciate the flexibility as we move through this. And we missed the stat. So thanks to them for all the work that went into it and getting it to us before they went on furlough. So that was really, really helpful to at least have something to move forward with.
I just looked at the agenda for the day I'm at the meeting. It looks like it's going to be exciting.
Cool.
Always exciting, Andre.
I'm not sure I need more exciting at this point in my life, but yeah, there's some good stuff there.
So I
Cheryl,
think you
you're
need to
going to
get
be
out
so
more.
excited. Sorry?
I think you need to get out more.
Yeah, I don't get out much. I'm going to walk outside my office, though, before the next meeting. But you'll be pleased to hear, Cheryl, that there's more stock definitions just for you.
Me and Lynn both. Tingley, thank you again for being our common force throughout this whole process and joining us early this morning. We appreciate you.
It's a pleasure. Enjoyed it. It's been
Thanks,
informative.
Jeff.
Okay, you all are free to detect from your computers.
Okay, and thanks very much to Jeff Lackey for his contributions. They were really helpful.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Bye bye, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Until next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Till
Bye-bye.
next time.
Bye bye.